Welcome to the first Champagne Comedy Podcast. My name is Matt, and I am joined by, I guess, 4 people. Yeah, I was about to include myself there, but 4 people from all over Australia, including the UK. So let's start with, and this is the first time, so I'm going to be stuttering and stammering like everyone else on here. I'll go in alphabetical order. So let's go to the UK first, and I just want to say hello to Alison.
Hello. Greetings from London.
Yes, we're going to be having a few pregnant pauses because we're just making this up on the spot. No script or anything whatsoever, just like a live show, which I think was kind of like the Late Show, really. It was just improvised on the spot. All right. Well, first of all, my name's Matt, as I've said, and I love the Late Show like everyone else here. I was roughly 12, 13 years old when the show was on TV, and I've been like a leech on all their comedy, really. So, Alison, can you tell us a bit about your background or your fascination with the show?
Well, I grew up in Adelaide, and I would have been about 14 or 15 when The Late Show went out, and I discovered it from the second episode. So this first episode is one I never actually saw go out. But yeah, the first time I saw that second episode, I was just absolutely hooked and tuned in every single Saturday night. And I guess ever since it ended, I've sort of felt slightly disappointed in Saturday nights because The Late Show isn't on anymore.
Oh, that's a pity. I think we're all disappointed at the same time when that was going on. All right. And so now next in line is Mr. Daniel G. How are you, Daniel?
Yep, Saturday night is the loneliest night of the week. Good to be with you, everyone.
Fantastic.
I must admit, I can't ascribe any sort of first reaction to the series because I was 9 years of age at the time of the first episode, but I certainly got into it a bit further down the line with the best of videos, especially, and sort of running into this weird little website of similar enthusiasts on the internet. And it was good to be able to find like a bootleg recordings of the show further down the track as well to sort of see what I'd missed, what they thought might not have been as good on the best of videos. And like apart from that, like I'm not sure why I'm here. Partially, I think it might be because I do maintain a bit of a connection on Twitter. More than the actual website, because every now and again I'll throw something I've seen that sort of brings up a reference I remember towards Matt, because Matt runs the Twitter and Facebook accounts. And really, when the AFL, for instance, tweets 4 photos with AFL footballers speaking to journalists with voice recorders, the only thing you can really do is quote tweet that with, geez, who gives a rat's ass about the finals? So it's good to be here with you, and let's do it.
Fantastic. Okay, so next in line is the admin, the person who started the champagnecomedy.com website, which is Kim.
Oh, hi, Matt. Thanks so much for hosting this podcast. It's a really good opportunity for us all to get together and actually see each other through Zoom. This is obviously a podcast, but we are seeing each other as we record it. So I actually have only met Alison in person. That was during the Get This rally in London back in 2008.
I remember.
Yes.
And so I have obviously been dealing with Matt for ages, just because I actually created the first Late Show website back in 1996, which was originally hosted on a GeoCities website. If anyone remembers GeoCities, it was.
I remember GeoCities. Yeah, it was basically the WordPress of its day.
That's right, and you could choose different communities, and the Late Show was a big part of my high school years. It was about 15 years old when I first discovered it. It was probably quite a few episodes into the first season, actually, maybe halfway through. And I was hooked after that, and I had a crush on Santos just back in the day. And yeah, it was just something that really got us through those high school years. And I thought it was just really satirical and fun, and we just had a really good time quoting each other in the playground the next Monday. So when I discovered GeoCities, I'd created a very basic website, very text-based. I don't even think I had a background initially, and then I discovered how to do that. And it didn't have a forum or any other interactive features. They came further down the track, and that was when everyone actually got together and was able to communicate with each other and swap anecdotes. Initially, it was all very one way, and people would just email me going, "This is a great resource. It's really good that there's a website out there about the Late Show." And yeah, once the forum got going, which is now in hibernation at the moment, let's say we're hoping to bring it back one day. Yeah, that was really good. And obviously social media has taken its place nowadays, and you get thousands of comments. And thankfully Matt is there doing all the admin for the Twitter and Facebook accounts, which you get so much engagement, and you just don't know, do you, how much people just actually loved the Late Show back in the day, and they can still quote it to this day. And even people who were only a couple of years old at the time are now being introduced to this humour. And some of it's dated well, and some of it hasn't, and as I'm sure we'll recount further down the track. But yeah, it's just been a really, really good ride, and I've just really enjoyed just that connectivity that you get with everyone, and I'm sure you'll have as well. So yeah, that's my summary.
Thank you.
And a bit long.
Yes.
Edit that out.
That's okay, and we're done. Yep. Thank you very much. All good now. And
this topic, I know.
Yeah. We're going to leak into sticky moments with Julian Clary. Now, we know that's not a 92 reference there. We have Perot. Hello, Perot.
Hi, how you going? Yeah, so I grew up in Melbourne, and I grew up with the DJ, and I was in VCE when the Late Show was on, so year 11 and year 12, so it was utterly monumental, but it didn't start out that way. I was just recounting my own experience with it when I was rewatching the first episode. So because the DJ were on Eon FM and then Triple M, they were kind of my alarm clock ever since I started year 7. So unfortunately, I really took them for granted. All those kind of reviews and articles on the DJ in those days would describe Tommy G as a bung killer. And I would have to say I completely agree, because they were kind of my auntie and uncle's age. So I was just like, yeah, whatever, and I was a real comedy nerd at the time, and I was so into the real kind of rock star comedians like, Lano and Woodley and the Doug Anthony All-Stars. And the DJ were clever and amazing, and we thought they were great, but they just weren't sexy enough to really sort of drop everything and watch what they were doing at the beginning. Yeah. And so I remember my dad and his girlfriend were mad about the show, were elbowing me out of the lounge room so they could watch it. And I was a bit weird about it, a bit kind of 16, 17-year-old weird about it, and didn't engage with it properly until later on. And then I was just full of regret, deep. I cannot tell you the regret I had that I didn't record every single second of it. And I wasn't really an insane fan until that summer of 92 and 93, where they played best bits on the weekend, which eventually was sort of truncated into the video. So, but that was what I recorded for years, and would just that was my only exposure to season 1 forever, until this project came out where we all got a bit of a bootleg, and happy days when I finally got that pristine first episode.
We're really indebted to Ben G, no relation to me, Daniel G, who committed all this stuff to DVD.
Yeah, it was a prerequisite that you had to have all of their best bits, the Champagne edition. You had to have certain things, because back then, yeah, it was bootleg stuff, and you didn't want to actually be seen as pirating. You had to be a true fan. Only the true fans could have their copy of these. and you had to prove yourself. So nowadays you can get anything anywhere.
Definitely. And now when you, say, try to upload an entire episode onto YouTube just to test out to see where it goes, bam, you can hit by much copyrighted songs, or in fact the ABC comes out and go, no, that's part of the best bits of The Late Show, which is available on YouTube, as well as iTunes, Google Play, legal places and all that. So, it's more or less you either got to know someone or you have your own VHS copy, which you've decided to digitize. Now, we've managed to track our own episodes down, so to speak, even though, we're all good friends here, I think. So,
well,
do you know what
we didn't get this episode. They fell off the back of the truck.
Yeah, or a mystery.
Oh, sorry. I meant to say, of course, I just used my VHS tape that I recorded in 1992. Of course I did.
So,
well, you see, anyone would know that I'm lying if I said, oh, I definitely recorded these in 1992 and 1993, because the copies that I'm looking at have got the bit at the end, which we never got in Adelaide, which is the bit about how you can get a ticket.
Yeah.
And
don't get me started.
Yeah, I always wondered how you could get a ticket to the Late Show.
You couldn't. That's it. That's the short answer.
I'm sure it would be extremely hard to ring that number at 10 o'clock in the morning of whatever day it was you had to ring, because everyone would have jammed the phone lines. But yeah, I always wondered, because I used to go to Melbourne occasionally. I've got family there, and I always wanted to go, but never managed it because I didn't know how to book.
I totally agree. I'm from Sydney, and I was having the same issue as well. Like when it would come up at the end, I'm going, how the heck, or where the hell did they film it? And it wasn't until season 2 when we do decide to get to that part, when they did the show from Sydney, I was like, what? It was done in Melbourne the entire time? I had no idea.
I was in year 12, and I would wag on Monday mornings, 10 a.m. to try to ring this number constantly. Wagging,
that's excellent.
Wagging school on a Monday.
Wow.
And I just finally realised that it was bullshit. Like, there were maybe 5 tickets available to the public. The rest were just popped out to the industry. It wasn't actually until later Richard Marsland told a story about how he got a ticket to the show when, from Adelaide, and drove over, and he kept a script that he found on the floor. It was an amazing anecdote. And I was like, oh, wow, you could actually go if you were just a normal person.
When you watch the episodes now and then they cut to the audience, you actually have a tiny or concentrated look on some people, and you go, wait a minute, I know that person. That person's a journalist. That person's a comedian. Or
didn't we once spot Mikey Robbins? I thought we talked about that once on the forum. Like, there were all these like, come on, look at those guys.
Yeah, Lauren, who they went to uni together with, and Michael Idaho was in it as well. So there's a few
the Sydney episode especially has a lot of media press in it for one sketch in particular as well. Yeah,
that explains why I never got tickets. So I also, when they said they were coming to Sydney, I was like, I'm on this. Let's all try and get on. I knew it wasn't going to happen. So
to get tickets for Sydney, didn't you have to send in a picture of you with a famous person?
Oh,
that's right. Yeah, there was a competition.
This is probably why we didn't get any. But I do remember they filmed the street interviews right in Marrickville, which was very close to where my friend lived, and that was a very exciting moment to see that pink whale, which we're all familiar with. And the dentist is still there as I've walked past it, the one that they're standing in front of.
Well, when you brought that up, because at one stage in my life I worked in Marrickville Road, and this was for about a year, and then when we were discussing this about the whole dentist place, I went, oh, I worked only around the corner from that place for one whole year, and I had no idea whatsoever, because I had to walk either to Marrickville train station or Sydenham, and I walked past it every time and had no bloody idea. And I've gone, that's how nerdy.
Yeah, that's how obscure we are.
You could have been accosted by 2 idiots with a microphone.
Oh, yeah. So it's now for all of us to get together and talk about what this podcast, other than getting together.
Well, hang on, Matt. I don't think you said anything about how you first came into contact with The Late Show and the website.
Oh, okay.
Come on, fess up. We've all done it.
Okay. All right. Well, other than being 12, 13 years old when it was on, and I was, sneaking in at night. I was told to go to bed, really, by my dad will be staying up watching it. My older brother was a fan of the DGen, and I listened to the Satanic sketches religiously, so much that I could nearly quote it word for word from the very beginning to the end. And yeah, we would be watching it, and Mum would go to bed, and I'll go, hold on, 5 more minutes, and next thing you know, it's toilet break, and then actually use that toilet break because I had no idea how funny they were. And yeah, from there I had a few VHS recordings, but they didn't last a day of time. And after that, it was mainly when Martin Malloy was on radio that inspired me, and I now work in media, and I've just stuck with that. And it wasn't until I was looking for a couple of clips of The Late Show. This is in the early noughties, and found Champagne Comedy. And from there, I stuck around like a bad fart, really.
Dutch oven.
Yeah. It's a steamy Dutch oven.
Hey, Matt, did your mum let you stay up and watch Birds of a Feather? Like, was that fine or?
That's why we were actually up, because we loved Birds of a Feather. And then it was like, once it was over, got to go. And then I was like, a few more minutes. I just want to see what this show is on afterwards. And lucky that had a sense of humour and let us stay up. So he goes, I know you got a sport game tomorrow, but, if you wake up and don't sleep in, you can stay watch it. So that's how.
Now, just speaking of Birds of a Feather, sorry I feel like I'm taking over with this. I was interested as to what might have been airing up against The Late Show with the first episode. So earlier today, I was knee-deep in microfilm, looking up old copies of The Age. So just quickly, I'll let you know what was up against the show on all the other channels.
Well, I know what was up against it in the second week, because Tommy G said that the Barcelona Olympic
opening ceremony. That's right.
Yeah,
they do mention that right at the end of the first episode. Here we go. Okay, so on Channel 7 was the end of an Inspector Morse telemovie called The Last Enemy. The thinking man sleuth John Thor is back in another Oxford whodunit. This time the contenders for a highly prized and prestigious position at the university are prime suspects in a murder.
Well, doesn't that just prove that Inspector Morse has been on for 1,000 years?
Well, yeah, probably still on some bloody digital channel now. I think John Thor's deceased, isn't he?
Oh,
John Thor is dead. Yeah, he died many years ago. Yeah.
Oh, sad.
Yeah, I found some old TV weeks, and he's Sophie Lee, and Rebecca Elmer-Logley's on the other one. And, so you can actually tune with your Panasonic VHS. You can actually tune in and barcode scanner.
What was that called? A G code?
Amazing.
No, it was different to the G code, but it was a printed barcode that you had to scan with the remote control, I think.
Bring
That's
that
right, if you had a Panasonic. So in September, they basically were airing against Ghostbusters, Passage to India, and the movie Stakeout. So
no. See, I don't have that in the TV guide that I found here. This
was in Sydney, so
okay. You see, I thought this might happen, that there might be a bit of variance between the cities. Like, I just chose Melbourne because that's where it was filmed. So
this was in September.
Okay.
Yeah, this is these are the only ones I've got. Unfortunately, I don't have months and months of TV weeks. So I only wish I did. But that's all I could find from my archives.
So on Channel 9 was the film The Lost Boys. And that was after Hey Hey It's Saturday, which came from the Darwin Casino with guests John Farnham and Tommy Emmanuel.
Wow.
Oh, no.
Tommy Emmanuel.
So whenever someone says Tommy Emmanuel, I just think any unsubmerged item from the Bain Marie. So that's where
Channel 10 had NBL basketball, Southeast Melbourne Magic v North Melbourne Giants. If you don't want to know the score, that's fine, because I don't know the score either. And SBS had a film called Orpheus, 1949 French fantasy drama. Generally regarded as director Jean Cocteau's greatest work, but this fantastical recounting of the Orpheus myth remains hard-going for all but the most avid film buffs, who might notice that 20 minutes had been trimmed from its original length. Is what it says here.
That's appalling. That shouldn't be. Yes, back in the 90s, they just used to slice and dice movies. Oh, outrageous.
That's right.
I have to say, that's kind of tough competition, isn't it? I mean, you know, a classic movie. No, it isn't at all. You'd be watching later.
I'm kind of surprised that there's no football up against it. There was football earlier in the day, like highlights on Channel 7, but maybe it's just the way that the AFL.
They didn't used to have so much evening football back then, as I remember. It's more of a modern thing, isn't it? Yeah. Most of the matches would be played during the day. Like there'd be a Friday night match and a Saturday night match, and then the others would be on Saturday afternoon, really.
Well, judging by the TV guide here, there's 2 matches worth in a 90-minute time slot, so that would have been highlights, obviously.
Yeah.
Which, it seems so weird in these days when there's a whole channel dedicated to it and you can watch every game, on your mobile.
I think we can all conclude the Late Show was pretty much the best thing that you could have watched. So.
Oh yeah,
pretty much. And I've saved the channel 2 as it was called then till last. I forget who mentioned that Birds of a Feather was the usual lead-in, and I thought it would have been with the first episode, but it turns out that it's actually a different British comedy, Smith and Jones.
Oh, classic. What?
So, Mel Smith and Griff Rhys-Jones, best known for Not the 9 O'Clock News, and this was their own spin-off, essentially.
Yeah,
I remember
not a
that.
bad
That was
lead-in.
a good show. Yeah, that was a good show. I mean, I find it really weird because I always used to watch The Bill and then the comedy afterwards, and I can't believe I didn't watch Smith and Jones that week and then watch The Late Show. But one of the things that I remember about The Late Show was that basically it got absolutely no publicity. I don't remember ever seeing any promotional ads on the ABC for it, and I used to watch the ABC quite a lot, so I should have seen it. And this is one of the famous things about The Late Show is that ABC publicity barely touched it in the first year, and it became this kind of word of mouth hit. And then suddenly in the second series, you couldn't move for publicity about The Late Show. They were all, but basically it just went to air with no promotion, as I remember, and then people discovered it.
Yeah, I think that's right.
I think there was one ad maybe that I saw a couple of times, and it was a very kind of lo-fi event, their handheld sort of stuff. There was more of an ad campaign for the radio show, like that sort of. You guys have ever seen those old ads of them in the lift? And it just appeared. It definitely just appeared because nobody gave a shit about it for a while.
It was sort of like a special little club, really.
Yeah, the other thing to remember about it is that it was called D-Gen, The Late Show, and they were trading on the fame of the D-Generation name. So that was kind of their one sort of attempt at marketing, was to remind people who was in it.
Yeah, although to be fair, they were the D-Gen. They were the D-Gen all the way through, like on the radio and stuff. So it wasn't like disingenuous to say the D-Gen.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't no bait and switch.
They dropped that later.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was towards the end of the first season where things picked up, and as you say, Alison, there was virtually no publicity. It was all, for me personally, it was all chatter in the playground, and people were just saying, there's this great new show, and everyone getting into it that way. There was no Facebook, there was no social media to really spread the word about it back then. And then gradually you'd get things appearing in the ABC stores, T-shirts, other merchandise, which was really good. And I think that Who article and Who magazine article about the D-Generation, I remember reading that and learning about their history, because I didn't really grow up with the D-Gen as a radio. So learning about who they were and their history of how they all got together, that was basically where I first got my information from. And And from there, we just started seeing more things in magazines. I used to religiously buy pretty much everything: TV Hits, TV Week, Smash Hits, all Dolly, Girlfriend, whatever, you name it. I used to just buy all those magazines and see whenever there was a tiny little snippet that was Late Show related, I'd cut it out or photocopy it because I didn't want to tarnish the original. Yeah. And that was basically how I built up some of my knowledge. And I remember in between seasons 1 and 2, a little bit more publicity about going into the second season. I remember driving past actual posters for the DGen and the Late Show and seeing some of it publicised in the magazines as well. So it was really season 2 that had that publicity behind it, and there was that expectation for them to actually be a respectable show, which if not for a better word, but yeah. So, yeah.
There still wasn't enough publicity though. I remember one time they made it to the stickers on the front of TV Hits. Remember those? There was this little Late Show sticker.
You know you've made it.
You know you made it when you're on a sticker on TV Hits.
Did any of you guys had any merchandise?
Yeah.
No, I'm afraid
I
not.
can't believe I threw it away. I had the hat, the T-shirt.
Hat, T-shirt.
I had the hat, the T-shirt. I did have photos of me wearing the T-shirt. That's all I've got. I had the cap, and then there was that time on the forums where the hats were being remade and you could purchase a bootleg cap. Does anyone remember that?
Oh, no. We should do that again.
And unfortunately, I lost it after I went backpacking around. It's actually in Moscow. So, so I lost my Late Show cap there. And that was about, 13 years ago now. Apart from that, I have no merch.
Yeah, I wanted to.
And there was a Barge Ass T-shirt too. Do you remember that?
Yes.
I've got the Barge Ass T-shirt. I've got the Barge Ass T-shirt. I've got the Late Show T-shirt. I've got the Late Show cap. I've got a T-shirt from when Tony, Mick and Judith played the Adelaide Fringe in 1994.
Oh.
Wow.
Yeah, I'll get them out at some point, but I didn't today.
Yeah, I'm afraid I'm merchless. I used to have the VHS tapes until the DVD got released. I think, was it 2001 maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah, 2001.
Yeah.
Back when DVD
that's right.
was common and you got a booklet in it.
Mm.
Yeah.
Didn't they record the commentary for that like the day after 9/11 or the day before 9/11 or something?
I think it was shortly before 9/11. Kim, you might be able to look through the booklet there because I think it's mentioned what date.
That's right. I'll have a look.
It's a very shambolic commentary. I don't have a lot of respect for it. It's like, they wander out. They don't bother wandering back in.
Matt, you might be able to answer this, Matt, but is the commentary available on the digital versions that are available?
I do not think they are.
No.
This is why we need to hold on to physical media.
Yes.
Totally.
Yeah.
For the commentaries and the booklet.
Yeah, I reverted back to to physical when I made the mistake of buying like the League of Gentlemen digitally. And then if you've ever been a fan of them and you buy their stuff, there's like their extras, their content, their commentaries is huge. It's like, how could you not include that on a digital version? So I'm over it now. I only get the physical stuff.
Totally agree. If you start watching something on, say, Netflix or iView or whatever, it won't be there forever. It's only there for a couple of months and then, boom, gone.
Mm.
So if anybody is planning to buy the best bits of the Late Show, get your butt down to JB and try and find, I think it's a 3-disc box set with Barge Ass in the olden days. I'm pretty sure it's still available.
And if you were an early adopter to it, you had the DVD.
Do you mean this one here?
Mm.
Oh, I think the current version it's a slimmer volume. It doesn't have the booklet, unfortunately. I think if I recall, it's available as a PDF on a website that doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, that didn't last long. It was only there for shy of a year because the ABC publicity reached out to me ages ago to give away at one of the DVDs. And I said, are you sure? Where's the booklet? You know, and they go, they can go to abcentertainsme.com/late show or whatever it is. And yeah, after it went, I actually was getting emails through the website from people saying, "Hey, do you have the booklet at all?" But I didn't have a scanner at the time, and someone else out there scanned the booklet in, and I just put it up on our own website.
So this says 1st of September 2001.
Oh,
Wow.
Oh yes, you're right.
So that's sort of it's 10 days before 9/11. And also I found that I tucked into it, which is this piece of paper. And this is a printout from a website which lists all the Easter eggs and how to find them.
Oh,
That's another thing you don't get with digital.
Yeah.
Easter eggs.
Yeah, so like there's a bonus clip of Don Lane, there's a bonus Charlie the Wonder Dog episode, there's all sorts of other stuff, and basically, you know, it's that sort of early noughties kind of Easter egg thing if you accidentally find stuff. So yeah, it's worth tracking down the Champagne edition if you can.
isn't it the Barge Us in the Olden Days DVD, the individual one that you got? Wasn't that the one where Tony was trying to have the most Easter eggs on the DVD more than the actual content itself?
Yeah.
Wasn't that Bad Eggs? Was that a Bad Eggs thing, maybe?
Oh, it might have been. It was one or the other.
I think it's certainly a Tony Martin thing. I don't think the Easter eggs would have been there without Tony.
Yeah.
Totally.
Definitely not.
He needs to release more stuff and have more Easter eggs. In fact, just
Yeah, come on, Tony, if you're
release
listening.
Easter eggs and have only like 20 minutes of content.
Right. There's Bad Eggs.
Does
Hidden
it have any
eggs.
hidden
On the
eggs?
back
Yeah.
On the back it says hidden eggs, hardly hidden if we're telling you about them. So there's a booklet apparently. Yep. And here in fact is the booklet. And I've tucked a piece of paper in, which is in fact a list of all the Easter eggs.
Well, that's a very large piece of paper, Alison. So
No,
there must
it isn't. It's one A4 sheet. So it
Now,
looks like
awkwardly, my copy of Bad Eggs is in a double pack with Cracker Jack.
Oh, that's awkward. Yeah.
Especially nowadays when Tony and Mick have sort of they're not a duo anymore.
No.
But it still has the booklet, thankfully.
It's a good booklet. Hold on. My one here is... Oh, well, it's the same as yours, Alison.
yeah.
Yeah, it's all black and an interview with Mick Malloy by Tony Martin. Yeah, didn't...
They still liked each other. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, hold on, here's a joke. Cracker Jack 2. Are you working on Cracker Jack 2 wise? And some jargon. Anyway, hundreds of jokes in there. Still get it in all good bargain bins. Now,
The episode. Episode 1.
yes. So,
Yeah, let's finally do it.
okay, so here we go. Season 1, Episode 1, which was broadcast July 18, 1992. Wow. That is a while, isn't it? Now, the first opening sketch, really, unless someone has anything to add first.
I just feel like it needs to be said at the top that this episode is what I think is wall-to-wall bangers. Like, looking at it is just such... I couldn't believe how rich content it was. And, like, halfway through it, you go, wow, it's been half an hour. And then they start Olden Days. And it just keeps going. It's like you just don't get a comedy show that goes for an hour every week like that anymore. So I just feel like that has to be said at the top. It's really good quality.
It is really packed with content. I don't know about wall-to-wall bangers, just judging by some of the audience non-reaction in a few places. But, geez, yeah.
Well, who's that audience anyway?
Just all journalists and people that they know and already seen it before.
Exactly.
I think it's worth pointing out that basically they were doing the D-Gen radio shows from 86 to sort of April 1992. And in 1991, they were trying to get a pilot up at Channel 9, which was called The Late Late Show. And that fell through the Channel 9 pilot. So they eventually managed to go to the ABC. And so basically 3 months after they'd left the radio, Triple M, they started doing The Late Show. So they went straight into it. And I think that's why there are sort of elements from the radio show like Graham and the Colonel which come over because they've already got a kind of established format and they can just keep going with them. there's obviously a lot of other stuff from their like live acts, like, you know, the REM song that Tony does. He would have done that live in clubs for many years, and so there's a lot of original material, but also a lot of stuff that they're from their back catalogues that they're drawing on. So it's quite an interesting show.
Yeah, it's you don't get an episode like this again. It's quite it's quite unique.
It's really scratchy as well. Like there's a lot of kind of technical fluffs and bits where there's weird pauses, and I think it feels like they haven't had much rehearsal time, and they're not used to doing live shows, and so there's all these fluffs and things, and you know, you just don't get that later on. You know, in this episode, they're really learning how to be the Late Show, essentially.
And it's the perils of live TV, really.
Yeah, it really is. And it's also quite noticeable that there's no like music segment, really. You know, they don't cut to a kind of daggy old clip from Countdown or from the Natural
Yeah,
Seven.
no, they do Countdown classics, but yeah, I know what you mean, the no toilet break. Yeah.
Well, that was what
exactly.
Was, in Countdown Classics when they start doing that, and next thing you know, you see the I guess the ID of the super or the title that's about to come up on the screen, and you see Tommy wincing, going, damn it. But he
I think that's what made them all so endearing, the fact that they were human like us and they sometimes made these technical errors, and I think they handled it all really well, and it just made that them more relatable, I think, and I think that's what you don't see in the commercial TVs, that's kind of slick production. I like that kind of unpolished look.
It looks nice. And I also, what was really interesting watching the title sequence was there's all this footage which presumably is from the pilots that they've made, or from some of it's from sketches that are yet to air that they've obviously got in the tank. And
the back credits, it's disgusting because it's full of stuff that we've never seen. Absolutely full of it. Like just different, it's either rehearsal footage or it's sketches that we've just never seen. It kills you to watch it, actually.
Yeah.
But I was expecting there to be lots of technical glitches and stuff on their first one, and I had it in my memory that was like that, but when I rewatched it, I've gone, actually, it's not that bad. They fluff a couple of lines. The camera, puts stuff on the big screen that it perhaps shouldn't have, but who cares? Like, it was really minimal, actually, looking at it from...
Yeah. Well, the proven point for that one is when Ross Perot impression is up by Rob Sitch, and he's trying to deliver a joke or a punchline to Tommy, and he's going, he called me names, and then he's doing like a little nod, like as in, go on, tell the next line so I can tell my joke. He goes, well, hell yeah.
Poopy pants.
Poopy pants. Poopy pants.
Yeah.
Can I just say that in the news desk segment, isn't it lovely to see Tom Gleisner with hair?
Right.
It's funny because at school we always used to think he was the bald one at the time. And then you compare it to now and you think, oh, actually, no, he did have hair back then.
Yeah. We were so mean to Tommy G back then, but now I think he's quite the genius. Like, I really have a lot more respect for the news desk material, because it's just not something that you appreciate as a teenager when you're not engaging with the news. But even now, when the news is, more than 20 years old, God, how long even is it? 28 years old?
28 years.
Yeah.
Like, even now, it's still very funny. It's just bang, bang, bang. It's great.
Yeah.
I think it was
can I just also
point out?
Yeah.
That was pretty much where I got my news from.
Did anyone else notice that the sketch with the Alaskan ship captain was shot outside the ABC Ripon Lee studios?
Yeah, I was thinking that was such an elaborate setup, that gag with the oil coming out the back of the stage. It must have taken hours.
Now, see, I was too distracted by the County Court of Alaska sign. That must have been duct taped to the top of the wherever it was.
Yeah.
Shall we go back to the very first sketch with Diana?
Oh.
I just thought that was a great sketch. And what I couldn't believe about it is, well, first of all, I think Tony Martin should be cast in season 4 of The Crown. He's amazing.
Along with Gillian Anderson.
There
Richard Roxburgh as Bob Hawke.
But it was just so quick. It was really, really punchy. I know that Mad as Hell can do lots of really short stuff, but they wouldn't do something that kind of like, it was less than a minute or something, wasn't it? It was just really, really fast, I thought. And
And he obviously got a really daggy music band album reference in there because he goes, oh, she's probably gone out to get the latest Spandau ballet.
I had to rewind to fully appreciate that. I've gone, what did he say?
and Tony must also be ad-libbing lines, because he says something like, in this kitchen we employ over 5,000 people alone.
I know.
And you don't notice it with all the other stuff that's going on with Jane, presumably as Lady Di, trying to off herself, which is kind of weird.
Oh, very awkward now, isn't it?
Yeah, it was quite awkward. It was about a month after those scandalous kind of exposés about all these allegations that were going on in the palace that was so bizarre that no one actually... They have to be so bizarre. They must be true if they're so bizarre. And the fact that Andrew Morton's book, the Diana, Her True Story, was published in May 1992. So there was a lot of stuff about Diana at the time. And I think it wasn't until she died that they knew for sure that the source of the material was Diana herself, which was quite interesting. But we wouldn't have known. Oh
God, I don't even think I knew that.
Because there were those tapes that came out, and then I think he subsequently released a book that had a more in-depth transcript of all of them. Not that I've read any of them, but I just remember at the time everyone was going on about the bulimia and all these kind of things about her throwing herself down the stairs, etc. So these jokes, it was an audible groan from the audience when it was played then, and even now you think, gosh.
Yeah, well, you can now kind of cement that in stone, the fact that just that one sketch at the very beginning kind of prevents the show being fully released, really, because it's just so dated, awkward, and you have to be there at the time to understand it. But now,
it might have been gotten lost in the 28 years since.
So
I don't think it's cruel. I don't think it's having a go at Diana. I think it's more sort of a joke about Charles just not getting the picture, not appreciating what's going on with his wife.
There was all this
that's
stuff.
the gag.
Yeah, and I think that's what's really good about the Late Show, and that satire they brought, and how they just turned all those things on their heads. And actually, as you say, it's Charles who's the one there. Now he's the most normal one of the world.
He is, he's the one with all the sense. It's like all those gags about John Hewson. It's like, actually, John Hewson turned out to be fairly normal. Oh, great.
And then it goes into the opening titles, and you can hear the audience's reaction. They sort of don't twig that it's gone from that cold opening sketch to the opening titles, and it sort of just dissolves into this sort of charitable applause, really going, oh, this is the opening titles, we better clap.
Yeah. Well, that theme song is James Brown, Turn Me Loose, Dr. Feelgood, just for the people who are not aware of the original theme and have been relying on the DVD substitute, so to speak.
Oh, I'd forgotten about that.
It's not a bad tune, really. It's sort of
right.
It was a good choice, because it sort of lets you know that comedy's coming. It's going to be a fun time.
Yeah.
I wonder now if that was sort of like a nod to Saturday Night Live. That kind of bluesy sound that SNL had.
There's a lot of SNL influence on this show, and the other thing, and this is a show that never was aired on the ABC, was a British show called The Mary Whitehouse Experience, which was sort of late 80s, early 90s radio and then TV show. And if you look at the title sequence of The Mary Whitehouse Experience and you look at the title sequence of The Late Show, that whole kind of black and white clips from the show thing is exactly the same. And I think I remember Tony saying in an interview that it was an influence, The Mary Whitehouse on The Late Show, and SNL would have been absolutely as well. So
it very much sort of follows the format in some ways of SNL, but then sort of it very much goes out on its own path too. So you couldn't say it was a copy, a la Steve Vizard.
It's sort of like it's sort of like SNL, but in the DJ's own voice, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was Mary Whitehouse Experience David Baddiel? Is that right?
Yeah, it was David Baddiel and Rob Newman and Punt and Dennis.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
All right. So we've got after the news desk. I've got a guide here. I've written. Yeah.
You've got an
I've got
agenda.
my
I love
cheat
it.
sheet here. So
I was going to say I've got something similar because, I think you might have skipped a little bit because there's a little bit of Tony and Mick at the start.
shitting brick.
Not a lot, but
Yeah,
just
because
a
they
little
always
bit.
used to throw to the news desk like that opening, like again, the opening monologue in SNL with the guest star, and then they throw to whatever Newsnight or whatever, I can't remember what it's called on SNL. And I remember in the Mick and Tony bit, there's this reference to Michael Aspel, and I just laughed. I'm going, shit, that is so 1992. Like Michael Aspel's so
Aspel and Company.
Well, see, I had to look up about Michael Aspel because in my mind, he's kind of like the Hooley Doolies to Michael Parkinson's Wiggles. Michael Aspel to me is like the poor man's Parkinson.
That's brilliant.
Michael Aspel's I think he's a really good interviewer actually, but yeah, he was. I mean, Parkinson basically was on the BBC and Aspel was on ITV, and so basically anyone who's the kind of rival on ITV is always considered a bit down market, even though Aspel was pretty good interviewer.
Yeah,
So,
and he had great guests actually. To be fair.
Yeah.
Well, see,
Yeah,
I had a look on Wikipedia, and it says here that. The show was successful in attracting high-profile guests, including then Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher, George Harrison, and Ringo Starr. So there you go, the PM and the Beatles.
Yeah, it's pretty
but then in 1993, the show Aspel and Company was censored by the Independent TV Commission because of an interview with Arnold Schwarzenegger, Bruce Willis, and Sylvester Stallone, who were there to promote their joint business venture, Planet Hollywood. And basically, after that, Michael Aspel vowed never to host a chat show again, according to Wikipedia.
Yeah, that's true.
I love the principles of the man.
Yeah. No, Michael Aspel's a good egg, I think, and that story is quite a notorious incident in British television, and yeah, basically those three actors had opened up Planet Hollywood in London, and the whole of Aspel and Company was devoted to a big plug for their restaurant, basically, and it's wow. I've seen of it, and it's a pretty tacky episode, whereas Aspel and Company was quite a pleasant chat show, you know. So I can see why he was annoyed.
Wow, I had no idea about any of this whatsoever. So
there's plenty more to come.
Yeah, but because because I've been going through the episode, there's a whole bunch of stuff that I've been Googling and Wikipediaing, and just to try and work out what the references are sometimes.
What the hell was going on?
Because again, I was 9 at the time that this aired. So
yeah,
just a spring chicken. Yeah, I think I once met someone who was 1 when I came out and is still a huge fan. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Good for them.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. I like there's in the news desk. I'm skipping now to the news desk.
Yeah, let's do that.
There's a really great gag with the Pope's bum, which I remember they constantly used in a clip of, when they were doing the credits. And there is this amazing laugh in the audience, right?
Yeah.
Like someone really laughing. And it occurred to me, because we later find out that bum was Michael Hirsch, the manager.
Yes.
And I wonder if it is in fact him laughing.
In the credits.
It's in the credits.
Yeah, as Michael is listed as papal stunt butt.
Yes.
And yeah, you're right. It's the first big laugh by the audience in the show, which is kind of it's a funny thing, but it seems like a really cheap gag to earn the audience's laughter from.
I think it's okay to have cheap gags.
Yeah,
it's a good gag. I like it. I like cheap comedy. I enjoy the bricks and the hat stand, and which they are kind of cheap jokes, and kind of what I like about, just to go back slightly to Mick and Toad's opening bit.
Yeah,
they kind of know the material's a bit dodgy and they sort of slightly apologize for it. And I quite like that because there's always a really nice honesty to their material. They'll always kind of lean into the crap joke. And I think Tom Gleisner does quite a lot as well. He sort of kind of almost deliberately does bad comedy just for his own amusement.
I mean, that's where the reference champagne comedy comes from.
Exactly.
It was just it was trying to oversell an okay but ultimately crap gag.
Yes.
Yeah.
Over the course of every week.
Thus making it even funnier.
Yeah. I love it. There's no apologies. It's just like, yeah, look, we bashed out like an hour's worth of material and whatever. We're going to tell this joke, you know.
They can't all be winners.
And I just love it. Just going back to the news desk when we see Clinton and Rob Sitch's impersonations, that's the the first really big ones that he's done. And I remember, gosh, doing that the meme on Facebook about which lockdown Rob Sitch are you, and there are so many of them.
I know.
Maybe should not be talked about, but there's quite a few. And gosh, everyone's like, no, you missed out on this one. You missed out on this one. I'm like, okay, I had to do a volume 2 with all
That's right. That had a huge amount of engagement, didn't it? Everyone remembers the Rob faces.
Everyone knew, but Clinton, I mean, gosh, that was pre-Monica Lewinsky, and he was still a notorious kind of womanizer back then.
Yeah, he really nailed the characterization, actually. I couldn't help it. Although I think the Clinton bit is later on in the second news desk.
Oh, that's right. Yes, I've got it.
Yeah, but
and the update of the news desk later on.
Yeah, like because that was pre all the Lewinsky scandal. He hadn't even been elected yet, had he? It was just
that's right.
So he really nailed who this guy was, and
he was a boy from Arkansas, Texas.
Nice.
No, you stay. We'll go out. It's classic. But the Ross Perot thing, I think that's a great example of who the frig is Ross Perot? No one remembers him, but we remember Rob doing it. The poopy pants. I think that's more famous.
Poopy pants. Ross Perot was always referenced in like 90s episodes of The Simpsons as well. He was obviously kind of a bit of a joke figure in the United States because he was a very, very rich man who just decided to keep running for president. And because he had so much money, he could get to the point where he might have a chance of winning.
Ugh, history repeats itself.
He never did, but he was an independent candidate and he was just a rich man, basically. I'm
the Clive Palmer of his time.
Yes.
Very much so, the Clive Palmer of his time, yeah.
Or even Trump. Ugh.
Come on, Biden, you can do it.
And looking at my cheat sheet here, straight after Poopy Pants was the National Drug Offensive Angels scheme, or like news.
The only thing I've got to say about that is looking at the microphones that are used in that sketch and noticing that they're just standard microphones with radio station bumper stickers taped to it.
Yeah.
Like you can see Triple M, and they haven't quite removed the rocks. Insert Melbourne suburb here, part of the thing on it.
It's very observant. But
yes.
what I was going to say straight after that was one of my favourite things, or a signature thing that Tommy G still uses to this day in Have You Been Paying Attention, where he tells a somewhat serious story and then, or something sympathetic, and then bam, something grotesque straight afterwards, which is the beach whales.
Oh yeah,
and then see everyone trying to rescue the whales, and then they got back into the water, but the Japanese trawlers were off the water's edge.
And they literally just made that joke, I think, last week on Have You Been Paying Attention as well. So that joke is just one of those running gags that never dies.
Yeah. Well, sadly, the story remains the same, doesn't it?
And they were talking about the electromagnetic fields, and I thought that's the 5G conspiracy theories of its day as well.
Yeah.
And thought that was funny.
Straight after the beached whales was all about the new $5 note coming in with the Queen being printed on the front. And Tommy was kind of trying to alter the picture, really. because wasn't that the whole thing where the printing was so soft or too very gentle, you can rub a face off?
Yeah, I used to do that. I remember sending a $5 note without the face on it to my English pen pal.
Wow.
These are the sort of fun things you did in 1992.
No
Amazing.
internet.
Yeah, that's right.
No Photoshop, it's just all rub the finger on your note. And I remember folding it in a certain way. And
Yes.
okay, I won't say any more. So I feel bad just saying that. Like a bit of a sex.
I don't know who discovered that. They must have had nothing better to do.
The Olympics were about to happen, Barcelona '92, and so they were going to show the new Olympic uniforms for Australia. And Santo and Jane are out in the field. Jane looks like she was, really pumped up on steroids, and Santo had his Bali t-shirt with Salona on it.
And we had Jason doing his best news reporter impression as well.
Yes.
Yes. But what was that? 100 meter just starting about or running? I can't remember that one.
That was quite funny.
It was the 100 meters piss starting about that Santo was doing.
Yeah, he was so great in his Ugg boots, and then he switches to thongs to run the.
And that was pretty much the end of the news desk. And
almost. I think you skipped. There was an item about the Exxon Valdez oil spill.
Yeah, that was the one we were talking about before, with that elaborate oil in the station wagon setup, which was just really cracked me up. I thought, wow, their stunt guy has set that up for hours.
Aaron Bochet, I assume, did that.
And it's like a kind of a pissy, daggy joke, but the oil coming out of the station wagon. And again, like the Pope's bum, they constantly flashed back to that moment in the clips over the credits and stuff.
And it did get a really good reaction from the audience when they see the big slick coming out at the back of the station wagon.
Yeah.
And the other thing I kind of like about that short sketch is that Mick is playing the captain in there, but he's not doing anything to sort of hide that it's just Mick.
Yeah.
Like he's not putting on an American accent. It's him. With a 3-day growth and a tie that's not tied all the way, and they must have woken him up from wherever he was the night before and just stuck a captain's hat on him, and just makes no change to it.
Yeah, there's a few times down the track of the seasons you've noticed that Mick just turns up, doesn't really give a shit, and does fine. So that's really it. You'll see those in a few dinner party sketches down the track. So the next part of it after the news desk was the first, I guess, produced sketch, or other than the Sangrian, but here we go. The Hardly Permanent Building Society, the old fart and polyester slacks.
And he talks about the bank account earning 15% interest. I would kill for 15% interest right about now.
Yeah.
My brother and I have been looking at term deposits, and sort of you're not able to get anything above 2.
Yeah.
That's generous.
Back in like the 80s, you used to be able to get very high interest rates like that, but you just don't get that anymore. Yeah. Well, would you like to know a fun fact about the actor James Condon, who plays the man from the Hardly Permanent Building Society?
I'd love to.
Go on.
Okay, thank you to IMDb for this. He is actually of Anne Haddy, who played Helen Daniels in Neighbours.
Of course, yeah.
And also he died in 2014, so rest in peace, James Condon.
Yeah, well, he was very good at swinging golf clubs into the back of his station wagon.
He'll be forever remembered for that, yeah.
Well, I definitely enjoyed it, and I think it's the type of thing that you see nowadays in this daytime TV, the really bad ads for real insurance and these.
Oh God, yes.
Talking about. Oh, I think I need some life insurance. My friend's got one of those. Let's call them now.
Yeah. if they were doing a late show nowadays, yeah, it'd definitely be those 2 minutes acting lessons that appeared during the daytime on a digital multi-channel, definitely.
Yeah. All right. And well, now this one's a bit weird. So the next segment, which they did, was Santo and Jane presenting directly to the camera, and in the back there was a display for all their jokes and everything else like that, talking about the new Jesus book, I guess, by Dr. Thiering, about the Dead Sea Scrolls. And
yeah, this was a fascinating sketch, wasn't it? It was like something that they would have put in their book. You know, it's a classic comedy book bit of material. It doesn't play very well as live TV. It's, you know, too text-based and too many visual gags, but a bit also, I guess this is almost where I wondered if they got that criticism for being undergraduate, you know, that crappy criticism that they would get at the time from old farts, basically.
It's not such a bad premise, though, because, I mean, it's only brought about just because that book came out, but it's essentially like, what if the Dead Sea Scrolls were like today's papers?
Yeah.
I think it might go a little something like this.
And
you know?
Let's list all the jokes we can on the Bible as a tabloid newspaper. And it basically, it feels like, you know, as Pri was saying, it's like they're rattling off all of these jokes without thinking about how this could be really, you know, funnily presented on television. And I think they're still kind of learning how to do it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't quite work, really. It's not a great sketch, I would say.
Yeah,
and again, this is not something that you ever see again. It's just a first episode, first series kind of moment.
It's one of those jokes you have to
realize it didn't work, and they just thought we'll never do this again, and probably a good call on that.
But one thing I think it really does illustrate is that thing I was saying before. It's really dense. I mean, if this is a lull in, you know, funny proceedings, it's not you know, it's still good, is what I'm trying to say. It's sort of like, wow, if this is a bad moment, it's a good bad moment, you know. And
my favourite line in that joke is, or that sketch is, "It's a saviour." That's my little. I've used that once or twice in the past, and it never really hits the mark.
It's a good gag to go out on, and they say born 25th of December, the year 0.
Yeah.
A child born to Joseph and Mary of Nazareth, despite some complications during the delivery, staff at the local inn have described the baby as being in a stable.
And cue shit scared straight after that. The first shit scared for the series, which involves Rob jumping out away from a truck while blindfolded.
And this is our first best bit, isn't it?
I do.
Pretty much,
Yeah, and it really is. I just, watching this again, and I'm struck with how golden this is. It's like just such magic performances, actually. Like, and also this is the first time I think we see the handheld thing out and about on location. And for 1992, that was really kind of, you know, groundbreaking. We'd never really seen that before. I mean, later on happens all the time, but it was like, wow, look what they've done on their own, you know, on a rainy day down in Hyatt, you know, like.
Well, yes,
this is shot at the I was
Okay.
going to say this is shot at the ABC's set workshop in Hyatt, I think. Is that right?
Yeah, it's not there anymore. It's an Office Works, but yeah, it used to be a ABC area.
Yeah. And I was going to say it's raining there. Did they have to wait very long to actually film Mick jumping up in those puddles? When I thought, it's Melbourne, it rains pretty much every day.
I sort of figured that they'd scheduled to record it on that day, and then it rained, and then they just kind of had to adapt the filming to deal with the rain. And I suspect the bit when Mick jumps through the puddles is something they've just improvised on the day. You know,
that was the thing that was blowing me away, like the timing in that moment. Like, it was just such a great performance. It made me wonder about their process, like what, you know, whether they
as
rehearsed it much
to how
or-
much was scripted versus improvised in that whole
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
I think it must have been a mixture, and they just worked so well together that it just all came naturally on the day. And
And I think also
love it.
Tom as well, he's really quite talented in that. You know, most of the time you're just watching Rob and Mick, but really Tommy is very funny as well. He's got this amazing timing, and it feels like he's talking directly to Santo at sometimes behind the camera. And I just, it really is. I wrote down this disgusting word, which was rewatchability. Because I think you can watch this segment of Shit Scared over and over again. It's just brilliant.
Well, I was watching it as part of this, and my partner, he was watching it for the first time, and he was just cracking up at it and finding it hilarious. So there's an example of someone who's never watched it before and finding it absolutely hilarious. So
the other thing about this is that like we're not told much about who Rob and Mick are in this sort of dynamic. Like we're told Rob's the stuntman and Mick's his assistant essentially, and it's sort of left to that. And like we don't really know what's going on until we watch the whole sketch, really.
Yeah, and then another piece of their merchandise that they brought out at the time was that video, The Devil at Your Heels. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And they had introduced it, and it was so, like, when you watch that, you go, oh, wow, this was their inspo.
Yeah.
But remember, with Rob learning karate, was it karate, wasn't it?
It was either
was it
Jiu-Jitsu?
Yeah.
Well, what, Shendo Kai or something, is it? Shendo Kai?
I have not Googled that to see if that's an actual thing. Because he mentions, it's either Shendo Kai or Kendo Sai.
Shendo Kai. It's definitely Shendo Kai.
But the order, according to Rob, of the rankings was blue, not black, then yellow.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Yeah.
Yeah. It's got that feel of, you know, that 70s stuff that they would have watched when they were kids on telly.
Yeah.
Well, actually, interesting enough, earlier that same Saturday on Channel 10 at 5 o'clock was a show called Stunt Masters. I've got no other information about it apart from that it was on at the same time as the Late Show. So
Was it hosted by Richard?
obviously it would have still been in vogue at the time of airing.
Wow. Might have to look that up a bit further. But at least this is where we started to find out how well Rob, as in Shit Scare Rob, knew how to spell, because
It's got to be in it.
Yes. Just ask me how to spell doubt.
Go on, ask me. Yeah, classic.
Or something in it, yeah.
It'll be.
This script of this Shit Scared seems really polished. Like, I wonder if this was one of the ones that they were going to do on Channel 9. And they were starting to film. Didn't they steal the Funniest Home Videos prize camera and go out to the car park?
Yeah. I think actually one of the Shit Scares, or possibly more, that was shot for the 1991 Channel 9 pilot, The Late Late Show, actually ended up airing on the ABC in The Late Show. I think that was, I think someone said that in an interview or one of the commentaries or something.
Yeah,
that's
right.
I think it might have aired as like the second Shit Scared rather than the first. So yeah, that's why we're not really told much about who Rob and Mick the characters are. It's sort of just left for the audience to assume.
It's the one where, you know, they're at the fire station going up the sort of practice fire tower, and you know,
that would explain why they're in Richmond, because that would have been near Channel 9.
That's it. That's right. And they look slightly younger, and they look a bit different. And I'm pretty sure that's from the Channel 9 pilot, but I could be wrong.
Well, straight after that was a quick little live sketch, Keyboard Classics, where it was Tom and Jane playing the annoying keyboard.
Yeah, my 10-year-old was watching that just the other day while I was preparing for this, and she actually found it funny. And so it's another one of those jokes that I think has stood the test of time, and every 10-year-old can play chopsticks and Fur-Elise, opening bars of Fur-Elise, and that's pretty much all you can do. And I had piano lessons for 5 years, and I still can only play that now. So it just
I think what I like about this sketch is that Tom doesn't name any of the the songs that are on it. It's sort of just left for Jane to play them, and like we all know them.
It's one of those ones that, again, it doesn't really work great. Like, again, it's got that first episode, first series thing, but there's some real funny moments in that. Like, first of all, Jane's costume and makeup is hilarious.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was really pissing myself laughing at that. And then the other thing is, actually, her and Tom have some really great chemistry. They really sort of work together as a duo. And there's a bit just right at the end when she says, "I'm dobbing on you," and he says, "I'll let you give me a Chinese birth." So it's like not great, but then there's some really golden moments in there.
I think also the unexpected Tom hitting Jane with the album as well.
Yeah. That sketch to me felt like something they would have done live on stage, because I could imagine that sketch going down quite well in a comedy club. But
or even something for the radio, it seems.
Yeah. But I think you're right, Prue, because I used to pick up on the chemistry between Jane and Tom as well. And there was a rumor, which I think they tried to encourage slightly, that Jane and Tom were like an item. Because you remember there was about them going off on a date to the dogs.
Yeah.
It was all subterfuge.
It's all subterfuge to cover up for her relationship with Rob. Yeah.
Yeah, this is true, because at school we always thought that Jane and Tom were an item. There was that chemistry in the Countdown Classics as well, when they were together in that on the bean bags and pajamas, and then there's this one as well. And then it was only until season 2 that we realised the truth, and thought, oh gosh, they've been fooling us the whole time.
Those wags.
Yes. Well, the next part was the first segment of Jason and Mick together for muckraking. And this is the beauty of muckraking here, because it was the original launch of the little fat kid from Hey Dad joke.
Yay.
But they also break down the whole, that's Kill Todd from Neighbours.
Yeah. And this aired on the Tuesday prior to the Saturday. Again, looking at Wikipedia.
Wow. No, you just knew that already.
No, well, I mean, just what actually happened on Neighbours is weird enough. So Todd was ultimately just trying to accept that his girlfriend was going to get an abortion. He was trying to accept it but couldn't. He was he takes a bus to the clinic, but the bus breaks down. Upon spotting a taxi, he runs across a busy highway to hail it. However, is distracted as the taxi moves off and is hit by an oncoming van. Now, he doesn't die from that, from being hit by the van. He later wakes up in hospital after a successful splenectomy. For the lay people, that's a spleen removal.
Scripted a splenectomy.
Wow.
He appears to have recovered and talks to Phoebe about the future and tells her she is beautiful, when he suddenly goes into cardiac arrest due to a ruptured artery the doctors just happened to miss out on.
It really was poor medical.
And unfortunately he dies from that, but later appears as a spirit in Phoebe's mirror, telling her he will always be there for her and the baby, who he says will be a girl. Phoebe later gives birth to their daughter, who is named Hope.
I can't believe he appears as a spirit in a mirror.
That's genius.
It would have been cheaper and wouldn't have been as much for special effects, I would think.
Didn't we later find out that Greg Fleet was driving the van? That he was the one?
No, that was Daphne, and that I
Daphne.
That was.
Yeah, right.
See, I'm not that big a Neighbours watcher, but I know that Greg Fleet killed Daphne. That's all I need to know.
Well, being in the industry that I work in for radio, I have met Todd from Neighbours a couple of times, but actually,
Christian Schmid.
Yes, he's actually a partner of someone who works in radio, and every time I've gone to the Commercial Radio Awards, the first time I went and I saw him from across, I think it was at the Melbourne Convention Exhibition Centre, and I was with a friend of mine. I went, "Oh, that's Todd from Neighbours!" And My friend's just gone, what are you on about? I went, he got hit. Oh, never mind. Don't worry.
It'll take too long to explain this.
Yeah, Christian Schmidt had no shortage of stickers on the front of TV hits.
Yep. But I think that little fat kid, yes, the debut of Little Fat Kid was pretty much what made the sketch, that particular segment for me, because, yeah, that's the start of everything. He was in the Sorbonne ads before then, wasn't he? A couple of years before then.
Yeah, I remember.
As well as Hey Dad.
I remember the Sorbonne ads.
Mom, it's my turn. Yeah. I think
But the bookie bit was a bit shit. I didn't like that. Even now,
Yeah,
28
that was a
years
bit-
later,
it
I'm
was
like,
a-
whatever.
a little bit of filler, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I quite enjoyed the bookie bit because it reminded me that was it Plain Jane Super Brain had died as a result of duck shooting. Was that correct? Didn't she die in a duck shooting incident? I'm pretty sure that was an actual Neighbours plot. I could be misremembering it.
I thought wasn't that Daphne and Greg Fleet shot her? No. You're right.
Wasn't he driving a van? How many people died by driving a
Wasn't that
van?
duck shoot?
All I remember from Neighbours is that Harold was swept off a cliff. That's all I
Yeah.
remember.
And then he came back as his twin brother or something. I don't know.
Oh, here we go. Kerry Bishop was the one who died of the duck shot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
And I can't work out who actually killed. Anyway, don't have enough time for that. It's a different thing altogether.
Just that I like the little insertion of Jason driving the van that hit Todd.
That was
And
very good.
it gets a great reaction from the audience again.
Yeah.
I love
Like, it's sort of
Jason's
very unexpected.
reaction where he's like, yeah, what? I'm just, running Todd over. Like, whatever.
So I ran Todd over from Neighbours,
So what?
It was an accident.
And now is the next part, which has gone down in folklore history of The Late Show, and that's Tony Martin singing REM's Stand.
Yeah. Is this our second best bit?
Although, but before that, and this bit isn't on the best bits DVD, is he does, as he says, as is customary on ABC comedy programs, to pester the audience.
I know, right? And how much is the guy that he speaks to, whose name is Tony, look like Tony? It's
I
was amazed that he did not say anything.
It's a setup.
looks exactly like him. It's insane.
And not the only doppelganger of the evening, as we'll find out a bit later. Yeah, it's just. Although I think the only reason I can think of that they might have cut it out of the DVD is that they couldn't find Tony to get his okay, maybe.
Possibly, yeah. But
Are we sure that bloke in the audience wasn't Andrew Denton? Or maybe was it Warwick Fairfax as well? Or the
He
bloke
actually looks like an old Champagne Comedy community member whose name I've completely forgotten, but I thought I chatted to at the Dick Liquor at the end of Get This. So if he ever listens to this, and he says,
Yeah, Tony,
that was me.
Tony from in the audience, if you're listening, get in touch with us on
Tell us
Facebook
who
or
you are.
Twitter.
So did everyone just basically quote the lyrics and sing the song?
Yeah, I feel like I know it word for word.
I'll copy your bum and bake it.
Yeah, that's my favourite line, is the photocopy of them. And then,
Yeah,
and there's just, when you look at them, you think, oh gosh, there are some really surreal references here. But Daihatsu Charade, that was my first car back in 1995, and I thought, well, that's actually a very 90s car. And yeah, eating 10 Souvlaki's, then throw up on the front of your bus. Daihatsu Charade, exactly.
James Rain reference with Hammerhead. That Hammerhead,
yeah.
what is that all about?
What the hell is that about?
Yeah.
All right, again,
Rise
I
of
can
Jam.
answer that through Wikipedia.
Okay, go on then.
Are you a little
James
bit-
Rain was quoted
Sorry.
as saying, I shouldn't make too much about the fact that it's about drugs, but it can be taken many ways. It was an exercise in trying to write a song about that subject, drugs, but also to make it that it could be about a relationship, which I think,
Classic James Rain.
Well, I mean that's not unique to many other songs that a relationship or drugs essentially. But yeah, I also looked up the lyrics, partially because I've never really understood the chorus when he sings it, because he sort of sings it. You've been with the my head.
Something about knocking.
Nice. Wow, that was amazing.
Here's a little nerdy reference. Now, the background singer for that song, Hammerhead, is Olivia Newton-John.
Wow.
Yeah, listen to it.
And she got the easy line. She just had to sing Hammerhead.
Yeah, that's it.
Probably the only lyric she could decipher.
Oh goodness, yeah.
Just translating that chorus back into English, he's singing, "You've been hanging with the nicest people, Hammerhead, some silken slip of evil, Hammerhead." And yeah, they're very oblique lyrics, and yeah, it could definitely be about drugs or relationship or anything really.
Or a shark.
Yeah, I prefer sticking strawberry Slurpee up my nose. Bloody hell. But, it made sense pairing it with REM Stand, which would be a huge hit to this day.
It stands up quite well.
Yeah, it does.
It does, yeah.
Now, this one's very, very, I guess, obscure, because all about the next sketch is all about Brett Whiteley.
I have to say, this for me is the gold nugget of this whole episode, right? Because it's not on a best bit. It's never been really repeated again, and it is fucking great. I love this sketch. I don't know why. I think it's maybe because Santo, Rob, and Tony are all incredibly hot in this sketch. I'm just going to say. And also, it's just very funny. It's very sort of artsy-fartsy, and
it's that whole. I just love that one-upmanship quote there, and making it into a game show. This is the precursor to the dinner party sketch, I think, with Rob kind of saying, "Oh, I'm over you. It's not a patch on this, and I'm better than you." I just thought it was really clever, and that kind of a little bit of that pretentious kind of feel.
We've never heard about how this sketch was written, but I like my guess is that because it's about Brett Whiteley, this sketch was broadcast about a month after he had passed from an opiate overdose, unfortunately. And my guess is that they must have been listening to a lot of Radio National, and they must have heard a lot of these Rogers and Nathans, talking about. His whole life a work of art, and just hearing this sort of crap from people in the month since Brett Whiteley passed, and reckoning that you must be able to make a game show sketch about all of this one-upmanship.
There's only so many times you can put up with a national treasure.
Yeah.
The line "I borrowed his lawnmower" absolutely cracked me up, I have to say.
Also, it's quite rare that Rob and Tony did stuff together. And so I'm always fond of coming across those moments again, because they are such the funniest together. And, they didn't do much material or performing together, so it's great.
The other thing I like about this is that Tony, I think, looks the most like Griff Rhys-Jones in this sketch.
Yeah.
What do you reckon? Is it a doppelganger?
Yeah, agreed. Has he got that little weird little chin hair?
No, that's Rob.
That's
right.
All arty men in the 90s had that little chin triangle thing going.
Yeah. I think this sketch works so great because they had a really good wig budget.
Yeah.
They look great.
It comes down to the wigs. That's all it really does.
And a good shirt budget as well.
Yeah.
The only thing that sort of spoils it for me is that it doesn't get a good reception from the audience, because I don't know if it's bad editing or anything, but when Santo, as the game show host, walks on to the game show set, it's done in pretty much complete silence. There's not even any recorded audience to it, so it seems like it died in the ass a little bit, at least at first.
Yeah. No, there was a few misfires there, or it just goes directly over their heads because it's too obscure, or that people just weren't aware of what was going on at the time. But that was, I guess, national news, really. But yeah, these things happen. That's probably why I didn't make it to the best of. So, speaking of the bad wigs and everything else like that, the wig.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I'm horrible at these little segs here because we're going to lead into the first installment of The Olden Days.
Yay.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean. Like you're halfway through the episode at this stage, and then you get the olden days, and your head would have exploded with like, what is this? It's hilarious, like it's so great.
And thankfully that theme song sort of does a bit of the heavy lifting at first, I think. Especially because, as far as I can tell, that first part of the theme song refers to stuff that doesn't exist, because it references Men Come From Cooper's Crossing. Now, Cooper's Crossing, does anybody know what that is?
Well, it was from the Flying Doctors, and it's a fictional town.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
And then from Darwin in the South.
It's
not in the
that.
South. It's not in the South, people.
Wow.
Now, the dusty plains of Innisfail. Innisfail, according to Wikipedia, is well renowned for sugar and banana industries, as well as for being one of Australia's wettest towns. So it's definitely not dusty. And then I had to quickly look this up. The Murrumbidgee's Mouth. It links up with the Murray River near Boundary Bend, which is on the boundary of New South Wales and Victoria. So there's not really a mouth of the Murrumbidgee either.
Wow.
I love it. I love that there's so many layers to the comedy.
Yeah, who knew after all this time that we could still be dissecting all of these lyrics and actually finding the meanings, and wow, the power of the internet. Well, back then all I found funny was that's that guy from Play School.
who we don't even see in this episode.
No, that's right. I was looking out for him and thought, hey, he's not here.
As far as the olden days go, I don't think this is a particularly strong episode. Like there are much funnier episodes.
It was more like an introduction.
It opens well with that platform shoes gag, though. That goes down a treat.
You know what? I never really understood that joke until years later, and when it was on the DVD, and I just thought it was just a throwaway line, platform shoes, until I actually looked at his feet and realised that
he's standing on the stumps.
Yeah. Holy crap! I feel so dumb.
I think it's worth noting about the olden days that they'd done this kind of revoicing of crappy old TV serials before in 98 when they did Degenocide on Channel 7. They intercut various sketches with bits of Homicide, was it?
Yeah, 88. Yeah, 1988.
Yeah.
So by this point it was pretty much expected of them, really.
Yeah.
Well, because they used Rush, the ABC series, which apparently the early episodes, some of the masters have been lost. That's why they really haven't resurfaced or anything like that, which they should really release, because the bits and pieces, mainly coloured versions, have appeared in ABC specials of Frontbottom, or Governor Frontbottom, which the actor, Brendan I can't pronounce his name, Brendan Lunny. There we go.
Yeah.
We got who also created Chances. Now,
Ooh, fun fact.
Bang!
Well, here's another one. In the first episode of The Olden Days, the person who's telling Frontbottom to go to the mudfields is Ian Smith, a.k.a. Harold Bishop.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
No,
it would be a great series.
I wonder if Tony knew that, because the voice that Tony does for Ian is very very blustery.
Yeah. That's a Jordan.
I'd forgotten how much Tony does of this episode, like in the olden days.
All the voices, basically.
It's very Sizzletown. It's like it's Tony, but they're two different voices.
Tony versus Tony, yeah. That's amazing, that final scene. The only sort of weird thing is all the jokes about Governor Frontbottom being, well, punsy, as they put it. I don't know if that sort of thing would fly today.
No, it'll have a big question mark on it, that's for sure. Or it will.
Of its time.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, after we were basically introduced to the Mudfields, we go into the next segment, which is hosted by Tom and Jane, and that's Countdown Classics. With the technical glitch of the opening titles not working properly, they highlighted April 1978, and that was the Saturday Night Fever Dance Competition.
Wow. It looked amazing, didn't it? All the gold hot pants. Yeah.
I'm still waiting for that episode to pop up on Rage one night and just go, record, bam, and then get it in full aspect of what the heck they were talking about and see all the daggy dancing that was with it.
It's really
one guy.
This
brown
Countdown
shirt.
Classics.
Sort of like looking like he doesn't want to be on camera.
Yes. But I just love the Molly stuff during the course of the Countdown Classics and that Prince Charles interview and all of that. And yeah, it was just so classic.
And
I also like in this particular episode, they do a quick diss to Countdown Revolution. Which was like a weekday version that they did that lasted about 18 months or so. The only thing that I remember about Countdown Revolution is the episode that happened about 18 months in, where the two hosts decided to go on strike and essentially got fired after that.
They were probably getting like $15 an hour or some shit, like poor guys.
Well, they decided to go on strike because most of the bands, and I mean this would have been de rigueur for old school Countdown. Everybody was miming to the tracks instead of playing live, and so they basically went the whole running order's out of the window and we're going on strike, and basically the people in the control room just ran video clips over them and drowned them out. And I think you can find it on YouTube. It's from 1990, but it's amazing TV.
Well, they highlighted all the daggy dancing in it, and but the one that they went straight out of was the music clip of the Bee Gees, where they look like they were off their face. Pretty much.
Rethink your third slave.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was where I was really, again, reminded of how funny Tommy G is. Like he's just highlighting this guy who's clearly off his face. But if you hadn't had Tommy G pointed out, you probably wouldn't have put it together yourself.
Not at all. He just finds the most obscure bit and makes a mountain out of it.
It's interesting, these Countdown Classics, because as the series goes along, they spend a lot more time on the segment and the clips they show are longer. And this one really feels like they're rattling through the clips and not sort of setting them up quite as much. And I think
it was a really quick segment.
Yeah.
Well, they went straight into a sketch about mineral water, which was septic springs, and this is where Rob and Jane were together discussing.
This would be their first date. The first date at Septic Springs.
It's not a very hygienic looking date. I mean, Jane's only line in the sketch is to spit out water, really, and just and run off.
Available in green algae.
I didn't really get this joke, but I was just, fascinated at Rob and Jane doing a sketch together. That was great.
I was just wondering, was there some kind of water scare? But that was the very late 90s in Sydney when we had the cryptosporidium outbreak.
Right?
Yeah, no, they do jokes about that later, or season 2. I can't remember.
I live in Adelaide, so you don't need to talk to me about bad water.
Yeah, there was a joke about the pineapples in season 2.
Fine, doesn't it?
Deadly pineapples in every third can. That was the joke about the food poisoning.
So looking at this sketch, all I can think of is the poor props guy that had to make that disgusting looking water to put in the bottles.
It was probably chocolate milk or something.
Yeah, that's what I reckon.
I think this sketch is just a response to the fact that basically kind of late 80s, early 90s, there was this real fad for bottled water, and it was the first time people had been paying for water. And there was a lot of piss taking around, oh my God, you're paying $1 for a bottle of water, you can just get it from the tap and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, these days, lots of people buy it, or in fact, we've kind of gone the other way with people filling up with their, you know, refillable bottles now to sort of save the environment. But back in the 90s, buying a bottle of water was a cool thing to do, you know.
Yeah, I actually don't remember buying bottles of water. What did people do if they didn't have any water back then? They just had a soft drink or some juice or something. I remember a friend in Expo 88 went to Expo 88 and there was nothing to drink except beer, and she was 11 at the time. So her parents had to buy a can of beer to give to her because there was nothing else for her to drink. So you couldn't even get water back then. So yeah, septic springs is as you say, Alison, it's probably a response to people starting to drink bottled water.
Yeah,
it's as natural as a dose of the runs.
Hold on, wait, I got a sound effect for that.
Nice.
Oh, we should have had that through the whole.
You said
yeah.
You did
Yeah.
for goodness sake.
Only just now hearing that.
One more time. There we go. The best $800 I've ever spent on that machine. Now, we have the news desk straight up, which we have a. Here we go. Tony impersonating Dr. John Hewson over the phone.
And
presumably they didn't have to make him up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like a cheap way of doing it. Was this the only time they did a second news desk? I don't remember that being a feature of other episodes.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
It might have been dropped certainly later on. But yeah, they needed time to fill in, and they thought, well, we'll do it with a couple of interviews, really.
I think one of the standout things about this episode is it's very sort of scripted. What I mean is it's dense of material, whereas later on I think they relied more on being silly or, you know, stretching characters out and, you know. And
hoping that Graham and the Colonel could run for 15 minutes.
Yeah. But this one's is just like material, you know, like they've scripted this bit and again, it just feels so dense.
Do you remember what impression Rob was doing of Bill Clinton in this one?
A very good one.
Although the wig was wrong. Again, with the wigs, they got better with making him look.
The only thing that distracts me from that Bill Clinton impression is that sort of weird sort of cleft in the nose.
Oh,
it's sort of weird. It's really off-putting.
The bum nose.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And straight after the news desk was Mick and Tony out and about, postcode from Shopping Town.
Yeah, I love these little postcards.
Postcards.
And Glenn Rowan being the most
shopping mall this is in Melbourne.
Well, that's exactly what I wrote down, Alison. I'm like, where was this ? I was appalled at this shopping town because the roof looks unfinished. It just looks like the dodgiest pile of shit.
Yeah, my guess
is
is that it might have been going under renovations at the time. But yeah, there's a lot of exposed wiring there, which is very odd because there's a lot of like kids stuff going on around there, like toy cars and toy choppers, and Cat in the Hat fun jazzercise show at 11 and 1.
I think the thing that confuses me. It's confusing because obviously their closest shopping centre is Southland to where they were filming in Elstonwick. But this is not that. It's like maybe it's High Point, or I just need to know. Or it's Northlands.
Yeah, can the Melburnians listening get in touch with us?
Yeah, because
a very elaborate setup, but no, obviously not. It's funny. Just when they went into the newsagent and they had the and they were ticking off all of the different cliches. And my partner noticed that the obscure American hero was actually he knew exactly who that was, and the All-Star and the Slam Dunk contest in 1988 up against Michael Jordan. This was basically. So he's like, I know all about that, and I know that exactly where that is, and he looked it up on YouTube and showed it to me. So
Dominic Wilkins.
Dominic Wilkins,
yeah. It was funny when Mick said the skeleton on the toilet is now hanging in the National Gallery.
I remember going through the poster racks at my nearest sort of Westfield shopping town every time I would go there. And there were always loads of the pockets were empty. And as they're going through finding the things on their list, there's all these empty pockets that they have to go through.
Yeah. Some kids taking the times tables.
The posters at the newsagent is really the highlight of this. Like, it seems like the rest of it was pretty much improvised at the time, I reckon. Especially that weird footage of Mick trying to dance during the Cat in the Hat Fun Jazzercise show. That's the second time I've mentioned that. Like not doing much movement with a cigarette in the mouth. Oh my God. It's just weird.
Smoking in a shopping town? I can't remember that.
Like, watch it back again. He's got a fag in the mouth.
Yeah.
No, you could do that back then. I remember you could still smoke in shopping malls probably early 90s.
Yeah. You could do it up until 2000.
Did you guys, could you? Okay.
Yeah, I was working in retail at the time, and I remember that the area that I worked in, they constantly had people coming in smoking, and then once the ban came in, it's like, yes, this place won't speak anymore. So it was around 2000, because after that I moved on. So yeah.
It's funny how quickly we forget how prevalent smoking was back then. How everyone used to do it in planes, offices, shops.
Yeah.
The world's a better place without all that.
Did anyone notice the sketch where Mick is in the photo booth? And I think the joke is like he's doing a dick pic or something in the
I need time to get my ducks on.
Really tiny bit, and you can sort of blink and miss that. But I just went, whoa, he's doing a pic in the photo booth.
The 90s version of a dick pic.
Yeah, exactly.
Ahead of his time, that's for sure.
It was also funny when he sort of danced off to the liquor land, like.
It really did look like a fairyland, didn't it? With the brick wall.
But yeah, the posters in the newsagent bit, I think is really the hero of the piece. Essentially going through the poster rack looking for 7 surefire items. So a poster of Marilyn Monroe, a poster of a woman on a sports car, a poster of an obscure sporting hero, Patrick Swayze, some sort of gratuitous boob fest, an awkwardly posed shot of a heavy metal band, and the surefire one that's definitely going to be in there, the skeleton on the toilet. And do you reckon? I've got a bit of a conspiracy theory about this. Do you think that they worked out those 7?
Oh yeah.
Do you reckon they looked at the rack before they shot?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. They would have looked at the rack.
Damn it. I was like, there's a little piece of me that really hopes that that wasn't the case.
All right. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, to their credit, they don't get even halfway through that rack, and like it only takes them about 1 minute 14.4 seconds according to the screen until they find them all.
Wow. Let's never ask them, so we can just hope that it was just all done naturally.
Comedy magic.
Yes.
Well, comedy magic now is the commercial Crime Stoppers, where Mick and Santo would break down late night ads that they discover or viewers would submit. And in this case, it was the first one up was the medieval fair in Birdwood Mill.
Hooray!
I love commercial crime stoppers.
Adelaide represent.
I remember that ad. I don't know if Daniel remembers I mean, I've certainly been to the Birdwood Mill, and they used to have the medieval fair every year, and I think I remember seeing ads for that. I don't know if you remember those, Daniel.
I never went to the medieval fair. I vaguely remember the ad. Not through commercial Crime Stoppers, but yeah, when you get an ad that starts with "Hear ye, hear ye, hear ye," in a bad Cockney accent.
Yeah.
You don't tend to forget that.
No. But, I mean, there were so many ads on Adelaide television, and I'm sure television around Australia as well at the time, which were of that level of crappiness. So in many ways, the Birdwood Mill ad doesn't strike me as especially hilarious, but, fair enough. I guess maybe in Melbourne it was.
And it's something that's desperately missing from modern TV is the crappy local ad. Yeah, I don't think you couldn't really do a commercial Crime Stoppers today, I reckon.
No, too easy. It's just too easy, especially when a whole bunch of them are up on YouTube and bam, you would mistake it as an actual made-up video, but no, it's legit ad.
Yeah, YouTube would really ruin a lot of the Late Show clip segments today, I reckon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the YouTube would completely kill Hey Hey It's Saturday when you think of all the segments they had based on like bloopers in TV shows and weird ads and all that. It would just kill most of their material.
Oh, yeah.
So,
especially from YouTube channels like Watch Mojo would go top 10 things that you may have missed in.
Yeah.
Well, see, I would probably see a crappy ad within the first 24 hours of it airing through my Twitter feed, probably.
Yeah. Well, they're deliberately made to kind of get attention in some way, and sometimes that's by being a bit crap. So,
Yeah. Well,
it's done more knowingly these days.
Yeah. Well, the crappy ones, what became a signature was the Demtel commercials, and this one was about the dream pillow that they spoke about.
I always want to know
how bad is this dream pillow? Like, I just could not get over how bad it was. A stupid air pocket thing inside this
inflatable. It's just like one of those things you swim with.
I don't buy that the car didn't crush it as well. I just don't buy it, because surely like it would make this amusing kind of pop noise as the car ran over what is basically a balloon in a pillow.
Yeah. There was no way they had the air pocket in that pillow when the car ran over it.
It's probably filled with sand or something.
Yeah, I noticed that they had a 30-year guarantee. So whoever owns a dream pillow right now has 2 more years until that guarantee is over.
How gross, keeping your pillow for 30 years. That is disgusting.
It's actually, where I work, that we test mattresses, and people were being asked how old their mattress was, and someone had theirs since the 80s, and I was like, that's disgusting. Like, we've had ours for over 30 years and it still works great.
Oh, gross.
So amazingly, you've still got 2 years on your warranty for the dream pillow, as long as you can work out where Demtel is. Is Demtel still running?
Yeah.
Like,
but it'll be under I think it's under a different name, or like Global Shop Direct or something like that.
It
must have been swallowed up by some sort of multinational conglomerate.
Do you remember Tim, the Demtel man?
Yeah, Tim, the Demtel man.
He's in the National Press Club asking politicians real questions now.
He's like, have you got any more for me?
But wait, there's more.
Yeah, I've got some steak knives here if you want steak knives.
Just make sure you don't put them near your dream pillow, that's all.
But back to Commercial Crime Stoppers, is that a segment that they stopped doing in Series 2 or did very rarely? I feel like it's a Series 1 phenomenon.
I think so.
I think so.
I loved it. It was so great.
And the bad case of neck gap was just really hilarious, how they were just searching in that dictionary. The neck gap is.
And again, sort of similar to muckraking, Mika and Santo inserting themselves into the commercial again.
The really bad testimonials.
It's amazing. It's amazing. And what's amazing is how they haven't actually nowadays when you watch things on TV and you see testimonials that are just as bad, and you think, gosh, hasn't anyone learned any acting skills in the last 30 years? Yeah.
And they wrapped it up with the preview of what was going to be on the next episode, which was the Nobby's Kitchens ad. So, that kitchens guy.
Dickhead. Sorry, I had to jump in there first.
But after the Commercial Crime Stoppers, came up the new currency, the
they're really obsessed with this $5 note, aren't they?
It was the first plastic note, so it was.
No, that was 1988 with the commemorative bicentennial $10 note, wasn't it?
Well, I think circulated.
That was the first proper one that was widely circulated. And they talked about the coin, which I vaguely remember seeing the coin, but Tony saying that he got it as change. I thought, gosh, he should have kept a hold of that one.
Top
I
gag
do
from
vaguely
Tony, though.
remember that.
Yeah, the ice cream at the movies. That was classic.
Yeah.
But all I could think when I was watching this is cash. What's that?
Yeah.
Not allowed to use that anymore. That's gone.
Oh gosh. We haven't really talked too much about the pandemic that we're all in, but yeah, I mean, even with 28 years of time passed, it's amazing to watch through all of this and note how much of this is sort of quaint and old-fashioned. But yeah, especially something as obscure as a $5 coin.
I think the $5 coin was never in circulation. That was just for comedy purposes. Yeah,
it would have been a special thing issued for collectors, and they still issue these kind of special coins, and you can use them as currency. But
in fact, I do remember receiving a Simpson and his donkey $5 coin, and there was a space one as well. This was in the early 90s, but I wish I had them now because I know they're worth a lot now. I think like $5.
Well, they're worth at least $5 anyway.
Yes, indeed. So after when so Tony's trying to decipher whether the coins and the notes are confusing his quote nan unquote, and
played by Myrtle Woods, of course. Let's not forget Myrtle Woods.
And she was in quite a lot more sketches, wasn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah, she turns up quite a lot in The Late Show and various other projects that they did as well. And I think Tony actually became quite good friends with her, and he attended her funeral after she died in 2001, I think. So, but Myrtle Woods had been in a lot of stuff like dating back to the 60s sort of television with Bert Newton and stuff like that. So, quite a prolific actress over a number of decades.
So this is probably the first.
She's really good in this as well.
Yeah, she's great. Yeah.
She'd have to be like the first instance of them sort of borrowing from that generation, which is so much a hallmark of The Late Show. They're sort of harking back to the 70s stuff that they watched when they were younger. Oh, well, we imagine that Tony watched something similar, but
yeah. There's a lot of, I think there's quite a lot of influence of things like the Don Lane Show in The Late Show as well, that kind of, live variety feel, if not the actual content of the Don Lane Show. Yeah. Alas, they don't come on and do their cabaret act.
No cabaret in sports, that's for sure. And this is where we first see Graham and the Colonel for the first time.
Huge cheers from the audience as well when they're announced as well.
Yeah, because we're on Eon FM back in the day.
Yeah,
they were a massive part of the radio. I often miss them because I'd have to get out the door. I lived in Mordialloc. I'm sure there's a gag there from Get This, but so I'd have to get out the door to get to school on time. But my friend would always give me a relay of it, which I think is kind of better when your friend completely describes a comedy sketch for you. So that was my experience of Graham and the Colonel. But they were massive. And of course they would do a best bits of the DGen show on the weekend, so you could catch it all kind of then. And Graham and the Colonel were absolutely very famous, and they would do a lot of outside broadcasts of the radio show and they'd get a lot of sports stars and stuff coming on that segment. So it was huge in Melbourne.
Yeah, because I never knew who they were before The Late Show, and it was my first introduction to them, and having not been a huge fan of sport at all, I thought I wouldn't really enjoy it, but then you didn't have to know about sport at all whatsoever to actually enjoy it.
Because some of it is also sort of made up in that sort of very loud enthusiasm that Rob and Santo have. They seem to really sort of turn the character up to 11, I think, when they're doing Graham and the Colonel. They're certainly much louder.
Yeah, and whenever they forget a joke or fluff things up and they just skim past it and then just kind of throw that piece of paper behind them, it's just really you just laugh along with them.
It's just got such a wonderful energy about it. It's like, because I think on the commentary maybe they describe how they would sort of have these torturous Friday nights where they'd write it together and they'd probably put in hours and hours of work into this script, and then live in front of that audience and in front of the telly, they would just be like, what the fuck is all of this? And, throw it behind them.
They take a huge delight in kind of trashing through their own material. Basically, they kind of tear it to bits live and try and make each other laugh. And I mean, in this, it feels really weird watching this because again, they haven't quite learned how to do Graham and the Colonel on the Late Show yet. But you can see kind of kernels of it and what it's going to become. It's really interesting.
Yeah, it's like they're learning, maybe we better get a little bit more drunk next time we do this. And also maybe labour the joke, because I know that as it progressed, they would really sort of stretch the dagginess out and just.
they did like to repeat lines in that in this section.
Yeah, well, they do call themselves out too. So when they start going off on a tangent, and they go, "It's time to stick with the script" or whatever, and then Santo will just pull Rob in or vice versa.
The other thing I like about Graham and the Colonel is the theme tune. Whoever picked the music for the Late Show has done an excellent job because it's very sort of old fashioned, slightly daggy. Theme music.
If you keep talking amongst yourselves while I look it up, I've got it in my
It's a very kind of 1970s sports show theme music, isn't it? Which I'm sure.
Well, see, this is the thing. It's it's a piece of production library music from the KPM library. If you're playing at home, it's called Light and Tuneful.
That's it.
And it's it was used for the BBC's Wimbledon coverage. Probably in the 70s, but it's very iconic usage there.
Yes,
and it just evokes that sort of old schoolness about sport, really.
And then just overlays the lawn bowls and the kind of daggy jumping up and down.
And that weird sport. What the hell sport is it where a kid is running with a small tire tied behind, dragging behind? I never understood that one in the title sequence there.
Isn't that like House Sports Day?
It's something that sort of runners do to train as like resistance training. They'll jog with dragging a tire behind them to kind of build up their strength. So it's not a real sport, but I think Prue's right. I think it also is probably quite common in school sports days because you end up doing these silly kind of obstacle course type games, don't you?
Like egg and spoon races and
yeah, exactly. Sack race, all that.
Oh, the sack race. Yeah.
The other thing that's missing from this episode, maybe the first few episodes, is that wonderful introduction. Tough, uncompromising. No holds barred, no beg your pardons.
No beg your pardons.
So with episode 1, it's just Tony saying, and now here's the latest in sport from Graham and the Colonel. It's sort of, it's not as good. That's it. Yeah.
In fact, I've got to highlight. There's one joke in it which went straight over everyone's head. I reckon it was a unscripted joke where I don't remember the setup of it, but Santo's referring to Peter Senior, and all I've got down here is Peter Senior and his son Peter Senior Junior.
Yeah, that was a great one. There was also some really great bike material, like going for a dink, and Santo had all this stuff about the T-bar on the bike and the sissy bar,
and talking about Tippity running cricket. Again, I'm not a sports loving guy by any means, but it's still funny to me.
Yeah.
I wondered though that there was that material about the Sri Lankan cricket team, which I don't know about sport, but isn't that a legitimate cricket team now? Was it? I'm assuming the joke was it wasn't then back in the 90s.
No, well,
certainly that it probably wasn't as held in high regard as other countries' cricket teams, probably.
See, that material's a bit dodgy.
Yeah, I mean, Sri Lanka, as I remember, were always a bit dodgy. Like, they weren't very good as a team back then. They may well be better now. I have no idea. I don't really follow cricket, but it's a very small country, and so they don't have the population to draw from like India does or whatever. So they weren't very good at cricket. And also, you got to remember, like at that time, Australia basically dominated cricket. We were the best. So we need more.
The 90s.
Yeah, 80s and 90s, we were a very, very good cricket team. Yeah.
Yeah. And pretty much after the Graham and the Colonel wrapping up, it was the closing time, which was the presentation of the worst album cover back on the vinyl.
Hey,
Oh, return.
where's Jason in this? Where Jason? Yeah, where's Jason? Because he's gone missing.
I hadn't even noticed that. I'm afraid to say, but you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was in muckraking, and that was pretty much it, wasn't it?
Yeah. But they were showing album covers such as Phil Gallotta and the Blue Echoes with the fantastic
testicle separation.
Testicle separation.
God, the 70s.
And then Jane showing, like, Jane is certainly a child of the 70s, considering that she's showing all those Ripper album covers with the track listing painted on the bum cheeks.
Mm.
And those are her personal albums. You just know that.
Oh, definitely.
And then Tom throws in the "Hi, I'm Don Lane" album just to. And Tony brings out the accordionettes. Was it "Life is a"? No, that was that.
Life
is a
Life is a piano.
Love is an accordion.
That's it. Love. Yeah, that's right.
Love is a piano accordion. Yeah.
It's not. It really isn't.
I wonder if any of those are on Spotify.
Oh, I do.
See, I'm thinking this would be an interesting game, considering that you've now got the world's music available through Spotify and Apple Music and stuff. You could probably go trawling through the different album covers, trying to find something really bad in whatever's there.
Yeah. We're going to find some gold. Let me do some research. I've got a few records around me, so I'll go and see if I can find any good bargains. And especially the High on Don Lane, I'm very intrigued by that one. Now, after all the closing, they actually promote saying that episode 2 for next week is they're up against, now get this, the Barcelona opening ceremony, the Olympics.
Yeah.
And so, Alison, you said the first episode you watched was actually the second one, so that means you weren't watching the opening ceremony like everyone else.
I find it really difficult to believe that I wasn't watching the Barcelona Olympics, but I have very distinct memories of watching the second episode of The Late Show and just falling in love with it. So clearly I wasn't.
Yeah, there may have been a lull in the proceedings, and you thought, I'm going to switch over during this parade. Yeah.
Who knows? I mean, you've got to factor in the half-hour delay in Adelaide as well, which may have been in place. Who knows?
Look,
but yeah.
I might have to give a slight spoiler alert to next week's TV guide, but according to the TV guides, then the actual opening ceremony didn't happen until 3:30 in the morning Melbourne time on the Sunday.
Oh.
So
but preceding that was like preview shows and something about the torch relay and all that the waiting. Essentially, as we know, the waiting is the hardest game.
Well, now,
so they would have had to have made the most of the prime time during that time. So you're right. I remember the Barcelona Olympics and staying up to watch all of those Kieran Perkins things at 3 a.m. and telling my friends that I was up. I had only had 1 hour's sleep all day because I was too busy watching the Olympics. But what Olympics? What are they?
I'll watch all those on YouTube. They've put them up there now because of the pandemic, and to distract people, they've got the opening for the last couple of games up on YouTube in full now, so you can relive the Barcelona 1992 opening ceremony.
Wow.
We might have to do that before we record the next episode, just as a bit of homework, perhaps. I thought that would get that reaction. Yeah, it's not as interesting as The Late Show, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
And that pretty much wraps it up with all the closing credits showing the montage of the rehearsals, and then because the Melbourne little tag on the end, which
just quickly because we mentioned James Condon and Myrtle Woods. There was another name in the closing credits that came up, Duran O'Brien. Does anybody remember where Duran O'Brien was in the episode?
No, who's that?
maybe just as a bit of a hint, he only had one line.
No.
Now, and that line was, Dr. Houston, thanks for your time.
Oh, the kid.
Oh, the little kid.
The kid.
Oh.
Is he famous or something?
I must admit, I'm only supposing that it's the little kid because I did stick Duran O'Brien's name into Google, and the only other thing that I could find was that he was in an episode of Blue Heelers in 1996, season 3, episode 38, called Buck Naked. Don't worry, Duran was not buck naked. He appeared as Halloween Kid 1.
Okay.
Which must have been better than Halloween Kid 2, but
Good sleuthing, Daniel G.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's I'm supposing that he's mini Kerry O'Brien, and hopefully got paid well for that one line.
Maybe he's Kerry O'Brien's child. Would that make sense?
Wow.
Oh yes, I hadn't even thought of that.
Because Kerry O'Brien would have filmed that in Melbourne, and
Ah.
Well, mine.
I hadn't even thought of that because it was the
maybe that's
Houston
an
part of the
inside
interview would have been
gag.
the 7:30 report.
yeah.
Although, mind you, was 7:30 report? No, was Kerry O'Brien on the 7:30 report at that time, or was that?
Yeah. Yep.
Because I'm thinking the 7:30 reports were all state based, which would have might not have been Kerry O'Brien.
Well,
Well, Kerry
I
O'Brien
don't know
was
now. I don't know anymore.
Victorian.
I know. What was Paul Lynham on?
Wasn't that Late Line?
Late Line. That's. Oh no, Late Line's Kerry O'Brien.
No, that was later.
Oh, it was, yeah.
But he definitely did the
ABC
7:30
nerds
report.
listening, get in touch with us. On
Yeah,
Facebook and
that's
Twitter.
right. We need some more ABC nerds.
Yeah.
I've just put Kerry O'Brien into Wikipedia, and he's got 6 children. So
Possible.
one of them is Duran O'Brien. Yeah.
It's
Oh,
now that I think about it, that child really does have his features. It sort of looks like him. So that's
okay. So maybe it is.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Nicely done, Daniel. Nicely done.
It's sort of it was me just putting the name into Google, but I'll take it.
That's all.
I'd have thought that Duran O'Brien is a pretty unique name, so he'd be quite easy to track down and find him.
Yeah, like Piffy.
Yeah, exactly. It's a unique name. No one else called Piffy around the place.
Cannot wait to get up to that episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess that covers the entire season 1, episode 1 of The Late Show, dated July 18, 1992. And yeah.
And look how long we've talked as well. Good luck editing this one, Matt.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
long.
good luck getting this down to 45 minutes.
Yes. Well,
Good luck if you've made it to the end of this one, listeners.
yeah, I appreciate your time for all of you for joining on this major experiment. I think it's really paid off once I start tweaking all the little bits and pieces. But seriously, thank you very much, Alison, Daniel, Kim, Prue, for wasting your time on a Saturday night, really.
That's
Oh,
what
it's
else we gotta do?
done. We're used to doing that on a Saturday night.
It's been interesting,
It is an
and
experience.
one episode down, 39 to go.
Looking forward to
Woo! Let's do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Woohoo.
then after that, who knows? We could branch out into other parts of the Working Dog universe.
Yes.
Yeah, we can do all
Hey,
the
great.
panels.
Well, the plan is to maybe invite a few extra people on this podcast as well. So stay tuned. So even if you don't listen to every episode, just keep an eye out because I do have a couple of special guests lined up.
Just know that if we're profiling pictures of you, we're probably scraping the bottom of the barrel.
Yes, I agree.
Very obscure Working Dog reference, that one. Does anybody remember pictures of you?
Yep.
Yes. I think it's all on
have
YouTube.
seen it.
I think they came up with the concept after listening to that song. I think that's about it.
Yeah.
I went to a recording of pictures of you.
Oh, okay.
Which episode
And it
was
was
that?
good.
Sorry, it's-
Can't remember who.
Frank Woodley? Or
Maybe Ando.
Hondo?
Can't remember. Oh, it might have been Frank. Yeah.
And that's interesting. Well, looking forward to covering that when we've done all the Late Show.
And on that obscure reference.
Yes. Thank you very much for joining. And please hit us up on Twitter. Oh, I'm going to do a Twitter plug now. TLS Champagne. Yes, it's run by us, the website, not Working Dog or any of the team, but we are associated one way, form or another. They know our presence and they love us. And feel free to email as well, champagnelateshow@gmail.com, or visit our website, champagnecomedy.com. So my name's Matthew. Thank you very much for listening, and thank you guys for coming on.
Thanks, Matt.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
See you guys.
See ya.
See you.
Thank you for listening to the Champagne Comedy Podcast, created by fans for the fans. For more information on this podcast, please visit champagnecomedy.com. Produced by Matt Fulton Productions, mattfulton.com.au.